Good evening and a very warm welcome to yet another episode of the program series on media for a safer Sri Lanka, brought to you by ChannelEye of the ChannelEye Rupavahini Corporation. This program is part of our continuing series of expert discussions leading up to the ABU Media Summit on Climate Action and Disaster Prevention 2025, which is hosted by Sri Lanka. Through these conversations during this series of programs, we are sharing the expertise of many of the experts in the disaster management fraternity, including professionals in the government sector, media personalities, academia, and also the journalists. As we approach the World Tsunami Awareness Day this year on 5th November, it is timely to reflect on how far we have come since the Indian Ocean tsunami of 2004, a tragedy that forever changed our nation. At that time, the word tsunami was unfamiliar to most of us, yet the devastation it brought within few hours became one of the darkest chapters in our history. Tonight's episode on tsunamis and coastal safety, the lessons learned, coastal resilience, and media's role in saving lives brings together experts from different organizations in the disaster management sector in Sri Lanka as well as abroad. In order to revisit the lessons that we have learned from the devastation in 2004, we have got an expert panel today consisting of representatives from government organizations as well as from the media and also from our regional partners. So to start with, I would like to introduce our panel today. So let me first introduce a known face to all of us and to probably the most of the people in our country. Two known faces actually. We have got Mr. Ravi Jayaratne from Disaster Management Center, and very warm welcome to you, Mr. Jayaratne. Mr. Jayaratne is currently the Director HR and Admin and also an expert on early warning. He has overall exposure of over 30 years, especially 18 years in disaster management aspects and also being in Disaster Management Center for almost 18 years. And also the rest of the years he has been working in the private sector in different spheres. So actually he's an expert on early warning and currently pursuing his PhD on disaster management and early warning with the University of Huddersfield in UK. Next we move on to Mr. Pradeep Kodipilli, who is in front of the camera these days quite often. So Mr. Kodipilli serves currently as the Director Awareness, and he is also the official media spokesperson of the Disaster Management Center. He has over 2 decades of experience in early warning, emergency response, and community-based disaster management. He also oversees one of the critical units at DMC, that's the National Emergency Call Center, the familiar number 117. So he is also currently pursuing his PhD in disaster management and early warning from the University of Huddersfield. Welcome, Mr. Kodipilli, to today's discussion. Next, I would like to invite or rather introduce an expert who has been in the disaster management fraternity for a long time. And let me now take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Senaka Basnayaka, who is the Program Lead, Climate Services of the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, who is joining online via Zoom. He is joining from the head office at ADPC, Bangkok, Thailand. So Dr. Basnayaka is the program lead for climate services at ADPC, who has over 30 years experience in climate risk management, impact-based forecasting, and resilience building across Asia and the Pacific. He is also a senior meteorologist at the Sri Lanka's Department of Meteorology and he has dedicated his career to translating science into action for safer communities. Welcome, Dr. Basnayaka, and thank you for joining online with us. Lastly, I would like to welcome Mr. Shehan Barnagay, who is a senior journalist and also been a news director. He has been a veteran broadcaster who has more than 24 years in television journalism mainly. He has served as director news in several leading media networks and brings a unique newsroom perspective on how the media operations in times of disasters. So welcome, Mr. Barnagay, and we are delighted to have you with us. So to start today's panel discussion, I would like to pose the first question to Mr. Ravi Jayaratne. As you know, the 2004 tsunami led to the creation of the Disaster Management Center and also the launch of the Disaster Management Act number 13 of 2005. So from your perspective, how has this institutional framework strengthened Sri Lanka's preparedness and response to coastal hazards, and specifically for tsunami?
Thank you, Dusi. Really, it is very good initiative, and it is very good remembering for me and our country. So I remember that in 2004, after the great tsunami, Parliamentary Committee has appointed and they identified the need of this kind of Disaster Management Act. After that, the Cabinet has bring and enacted this Act in 2005. In there, basically, in the most important thing is to the establishment of the council. The council chaired by the excellent President and opposition leader and the other provincial, 9 provincial chief secretaries, ministers. So it is very, what I want to tell you that it is the important aspect that we need to cover. So this is disaster management is the cross-cutting subject. As you know, each and every subject that we need to involve. So from that, I especially remember that when it is come to in 2005, there is no disaster management center. It is like ad hocly that work has done. So after the establishment of 2005 in disaster management center, so with the act, there are, as you know, we can identify the disaster management cycle. In that cycle, we need to all activities to cover up all the activities to complete the disaster management in the country. Okay. So that the in there that government had identified, then established the disaster management center. Then in the disaster management center, we have basically divisions based on the disaster management cycles, okay. Especially disaster mitigation and research and development, preparedness planning and early warning, emergency operations, and the awareness. Okay. So those divisions, especially in the cycle, pre-activities and the post activities, okay. Especially mitigations with the structural and non-structural mitigations. Okay. After that, it is come to the once is disasters occur. So our emergency response and operation is come to the in the field. Okay. So this is the evaluation of the disaster management in the country. Now all the ministries, all the private sectors and NGOs, INGOs, all are commitment to work the disaster eradication of the disaster, but they are mainly we are preventing that disaster. Most of the things are mitigating and preparing and aware the people how to act for the disasters.
Okay.
So once it comes to the coastal disasters, especially for the tsunami, in tsunami it is very rare disaster, but it's very tragedy and very devastation. So we have a plan. We have a SOPs, standard operating procedures for cater for that tsunamis, and we calculated those timings, and even if it happen in the Indonesian subductions or the Makaran subductions, we calculate how much is travel time. So I think it is not like 2004 tsunami.
Okay.
So we happy really if it not happen.
Okay.
But now we are ready for the even to act the disaster of tsunami.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Jayaratna, for explaining the institutional framework that had developed since 2005 up to now, and also it's very happy and comforting to know that DMC as the nodal agency for disaster management in Sri Lanka is geared to face any tsunamis that would come in the near future, in the event if it does happen, which we hope it will not, but nevertheless we have to be always ready. So as we all know, this year the World Tsunami Awareness Day shines a spotlight on building resilient communities through the Tsunami Ready program, which is like a global effort. So in this context, I would like to pose this question to Mr. Kodipili, as the Director Awareness current position at DMC, and also being the media spokesperson. With your experience at the Emergency Operations Center, or familiarly known as EOC, could you kindly walk us through very briefly as to how tsunami warnings are currently issued and coordinated to ensure timely dissemination to communities who are at risk, especially the coastal communities?
Right. Thank you very much, Dushit. So before 2004, we don't have such kind of disaster management center, even the early warning mechanism. So I'll begin with because we got the first wave by 8:30 in the morning, and we got the back wave by 9:20 at Hambantota, so and Gawal Matra Kalutara area. Even we did not have inland early warning dissemination mechanism for the country. That's why when that huge wave is hitting at the Sangaman Kandadude of most eastern part of the Sri Lanka, people are doing normal activities in the south area. If they knew, if they got the message that would come to them as well, we could have saved a lot of lives in the particular areas. So with that, then we thought to have a disaster management center, and the government decided to have a disaster management center. And with the beginning, we just had a telephone only, right? I still remember the days that we engaged with Ravi and myself. So for an early warning mechanism, we should have kind of a 4 segments, like I mentioning every time. The risks. So we analyzed the risk areas above the tsunami. We selected the areas which are so vulnerable for the tsunami hazard. That is a rapid onset hazard, and we don't have much time to reach with our warnings to the ground level people. So then the Med department, by that time the Med department was doing 24/7 services. So that's why the government granted that capacity to the Med department. So they are doing well. So, and also that is the technical part. And also we, as the interface of the disaster management mechanism for the early warning, and we do have a dissemination system. Actually, when we get the messages from the international agencies, then we should have kind of an analytical survey for the disaster hitting areas and the wave height and all. That's why the dissemination is a bit difficult sometimes and it's challenging. So we had 3 early warning towers by that time in 2008 in Ampara and the Jaffna and also the Galle. But with that, we developed 14 early warning dissemination mechanism right now for the country. So we cannot rely on one system. That's why we should have several systems, because when people getting the messages, it has to be proven with several mechanisms.
Okay.
If one system fail, other system has to work. So that is the dissemination part. When we come to the dissemination part, so we engage with the international communities, like in Australian Tsunami Warning Center, and also the Indonesian BMKG, and also in India in COIS. So those three centers, because we had a lot of discussions since 2008, because I am a part of that discussions with Professor Samantha Hettiarajah from University of Monaco. I have been working there for the IOTWMS as a vice chair for one group, and so we had a lot of discussions. And by 2014, we gotten that succeeded, and now we are getting all these messages free of charge.
Okay.
So Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System covers 28 countries, even in Asia and Africa and Australian region as well.
Okay.
That is very important, because sometimes when a country doesn't have such kind of a capacity, we should be able to get the support from other countries as well. That's why the DMC conducted that mission to get the messages. Like today, the national contact for the IOTWMS, Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System, is the DMC,
Okay.
the DG of the DMC and the DMC.
Okay.
And the national warning focal point is a Met department. So we both together has a kind of a synergized SOP to provide the early warning. That is very important. So that part is developed. That's the Emergency Operations Center, manning all the civilian people and the military and the police. The communication, there are a lot of communication modes.
Okay.
So we have the military communication connected with all the detachments and brigades and all, and we have a police staff working 24/7, and all 609 police stations being connected with the Disaster Management Emergency Operations Center. And also we have different kinds of SMS services, and also the email, internet, and a lot of systems. But especially we developed a tsunami, because we identified around 100,000 numbers, giving a tsunami ringtone.
Okay.
While you are sleeping, it might ring your phone with a huge siren.
Okay.
Then you will get the phone up and you will get the messages for the evacuation. Likewise, there are many kinds of dissemination modes and systems. So when we come to the final part, so people did not understand about the word of a tsunami, even including myself. That's why I was hit by the tsunami. Even if I knew that one, I was not be able to hit by that particular tsunami. So because I could have been saved, and a lot of lives as well, because a lot of friends died in front of me. Okay. So that's the thing. And the response capability, awareness of the communities, awareness of the warning system, and how they are getting the messages, where they are going to go. So warning is a number of very important segment for the tsunami. Why? We cannot mitigate the tsunami around the country. Sometimes Japan is good, but we cannot, because a lot of money has to pay for the tsunami walls and all. Yes. But we have to do is, we need to protect the communities, giving the right time early warning. So early warning has to pass in actual writer, because they should get that warning with a lead in time. So if we are warning them within 5 minutes lead in time, what they can do? They cannot evacuate. That's why we are having a lot of drills, evacuation programs, and also awareness for those 14 coastal areas of the country. Not only the 14 areas, even inland, because inland people can go to the coastal area. In 2004, a lot of people died from Kandy, Nuwara, somewhere, because that was a kind of a 3-day holiday.
Exactly. Yes.
So likewise, that is the way of the early warning mechanism in Sri Lanka right now in the Disaster Management Center. We have different 14 early warning mechanisms. So we get the messages from the internationally, and the Met department is producing the productive way of that messages to the Disaster Management Center. We cater those messages with the vulnerability, and all these data have been incorporated with that one. We know the people who are going to be affected, and we know where to go and disseminate these messages. We have dissemination systems, but we are always urging to increase the dissemination systems with the CREST MPA project. So we are trying to enhance our system into the. That's why I always, in the last program also, I clearly mentioned about the common alerting protocol. Yes. That is needed for a country like in Japan and in Malaysia and Indonesia, whatever, because they have that capacity. So because we should get that technical aspect and the knowledge to because we need to enhance our early warning capacities, and people need to enhance their reception capacity. They need to have because if I'm a layman, if I'm a community, because I'll be the community member after my work's done, because if I go at home, I'm a community member. I should be able to understand how we get the messages. Then where to go. So that's why the early warning is not for the dissemination system, not for a telephone, not for SMS services. Connecting the risk and technical forecasting, dissemination, and the response capability of 4 segment has to be well connected for the early warning. That's why the DMC is concerning about the impact-based early warning mechanism for the tsunami.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Kodipili. You gave a very comprehensive overview about the system in terms of how effective it should be, and also the developments that are being proposed and are currently in place to enhance the capacity and to ensure that this communication happens in a very effective and timely manner to reach the community who is at risk. So let's move on to Dr. Basnaika. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Senaka Basnaika, for joining us tonight via Zoom from the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center in Thailand. Welcome, Dr. Basnaika, once again. Dr. Basnaika, I would like to ask, with regard to 2004 tsunami, it transformed the thinking pattern about early warning systems across the region. So from your experience at the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, how have these systems evolved to give coastal communities faster and more reliable early warnings or alerts? Over to you, Dr. Basnaika.
Thank you very much, Rishi, so for inviting Asian Disaster Preparedness Center to this discussion. Good evening from Bangkok, Thailand. In particular to your question, so before 2004 tsunami, Indian Ocean tsunami, or some says Boxing Day tsunami, so we didn't have a proper system, regional early warning system, to monitor or even forecast, which was very well emphasized by Mr. Pradeep as well as Mr. Ravi a while ago. And Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, we were involved in this process after the event to coordinate with the international organization, in particular UNESCO, IOC, and we had a couple of interventions they organized. We also participated in Thailand as well. So so that it took they started this process 2005, and they were able to establish IO WSM, so in 2006, and then it was up and running since then. So Sri Lanka in particular, as well as other countries, were very well connected to the system. And then of course at the very beginning they were depending on the information coming from Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, but later in 2011 or somewhere at that time, so they were able to establish their own systems, which Mr. Pradeep also mentioned a while ago, that Australia, Bureau of Meteorology, as well as BMKG in Indonesia, INCOIS in India. So those are tsunami service providers. And then apparently the system was established the National Tsunami Warning Center is the Department of Meteorology Sri Lanka, as well as DMC is also as Mr. Pradeep mentioned, that they are also very much into that. They are taking part of that, and then in order to receive this information, and DMC, as he was mentioning, they're responsible for disseminating that information to grassroots level. So this system actually, the original system that was developed, it's basically to detect and locate the undersea earthquakes, and confirm tsunami generation through sea level networks, as well as issue the warnings to the National Tsunami Warning Centers. And then of course dissemination is done by the in country like Sri Lanka, maybe other countries, they are doing the same. And so this is the situation over the years. So ADPC, as I was mentioning, was able to took part of this, and then now we have been afterward we have been improving the capacity of the systems in the countries to get not only to early warning, but integrate into multi-attack early warning systems that we did in Sri Lanka as well as other countries. So I stop here. So we'll look forward to have the next question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Senekar, for explaining as to how it has come this far from 2004 from a regional perspective, and also it's encouraging to see as to how science and technology have improved over the past 2 decades. So now let me move to Mr. Shehan Baranagi to get a perspective from the media point of view. Mr. Baranagi, as a media personality during the 2004 tsunami disaster, which was an unprecedented disaster that created a huge significant or rather significant impact for Sri Lanka, could you briefly reflect on what was your experience like as a media personality, and also how you kind of coped with the situation at that time with the limited resources that were available, especially amidst confusion, chaos, and also the various challenges that you faced at that time, going back to 2004?
Yeah, thank you, Dushi, for the question. Well, actually, up until 2004, the word tsunami was a total mystery word. Actually, all the media or even for the officials or whoever, common man, got to know about tsunami just after the catastrophe. So we Sri Lankans, especially the media and the public, gets to know about the disasters once the disaster is over. Right? Once it happens, only we know. Now, similarly, like when it happens to COVID, we never knew about the COVID, and then thereafter only the people got to know, the media got to know. And subsequently, the media, especially after the tsunami in 2004, only the media also got this word and took it to the real common parlance. Now, on the day of the tsunami 2004, if I could recollect the scenario that we had in Sri Lanka, because since we never knew about the word tsunami, the scientific methodology of the entire process, people, we got calls from, started from eastern province, Batik Low, and then subsequently it went to Ampara, and then came to Hambantota, the Gaul and Madara. Most of the reporters were calling, saying that the sea water has come to the shore, and basically it has come to the normal ground level, and it has come to the land, and so they were complaining, all the reporters were complaining. And then we also thought, my gosh, usually when during the seasonal, there is this there is a seasonal way that the sea tides basically used to come into the ground, and then usually people get sometimes panic, saying that the sea had come to the land. But then we got alarmed. I personally, as a journalist, I got alarmed because the reporter from the Gaul said that now the entire Gaul town is inundated with the seawater, and then I was shocked with how come the Gaul town get inundated. And because he said I used to live slightly about 3-4 stories up in the Gaul town, and then he said that the entire Gaul stadium is totally inundated, and then it's a huge issue. Then immediately I had to, told him, look, okay, what you could do is immediately send us the visuals. Now, unlike today, now we are talking about the technology, we have very, mobile phones, you can just send it, that's a basic thing, but those days they had the mini DV cassettes. Right? And most of the cassettes came to Colombo either from the Gaul Colombo, the private bus. Right? True. That is how because we never even had established an FTP system, the basic fundamental system. Those days the technology was at a remote stage. However, he called me and said that I have the cassette, and then can you get it, and then somehow we had some logistical issues, but then somehow he was able to send the cassette to me at the station that I was working. But when I got the cassette, I saw just normal ground level. There was no water, but there I saw some people gathering, and then immediately when we rewound the tape, we saw the catastrophe. We have seen as to how the Galle town was at that time. There were some group of students struggling with the life because they were inundated with water, and it was a huge catastrophic feeling we got. We were totally shocked. And what I did was, at that time, Dushi, I was actually working for not for a national channel, but although it's a national channel, it was a smaller station which had the reach only for Colombo and Galle. So I only got that footage and I actually copied it, and I thought it should be the national duty of mine to send it to the national media. And I could remember, I think even by that time, I think the Rupavahini also had got some visuals from him or perhaps from another person. So I actually got my the cassette, mini DV cassette, I ran to national station, and I wanted them to show this catastrophe, because had I kept it, I knew that it will be only consumed by only for the people in 2 or 3 districts. So I thought, no, this is a national duty for us to send this cassette footage to the national stations. So that was the beginning, right? So, and then from that day onwards, then everything that unfolded was also interesting, right? And I could remember when there was a train that even the officials were trying to find out what had happened to the train that went to the Galle. Right? And I could remember one media station, one private media station had the bold decision to hire a chopper, and then went on air on live with the cameras. They sent a crew, and then they spotted the train in parallel, right? So then I actually thought, my gosh, that was a huge responsibility of a media station, and in fact the officials are trying to locate the train officials, the CGR people, but then, however, it was the media that brought the entire train into the spotlight of the entire public and to the world, that this train has got caught to the water. So that was the scenario that happened at that time. And then we could remember there was no, as Mr. Horipili mentioned, that there was no DMC for us to get information, but we were running to, let's say, for if it is for rain, we had to run for Med Department. If it is for something landslide, we go to NBRO, but there was no institution such as DMC. Right. So, but anyway, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and we had to go with their help, even for the matter for the Red Cross, all the institutions. So, what we immediately, as a journalist, as a head of a media institution, which I immediately asked my staff members, okay, you all, we delegated the work. You have to call Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, STF, 24/7, and the hospitals 24/7, and all the AGAs, because the Sri Lanka has a blessing in disguise. For me, I think it's not for the system. We do have a brilliant system where we run to the Grama Sevaka level. That is a huge asset that the entire world commented, because the entire if the news or whatever information is disseminated, it goes down to the small person or to the even remote level. Because we have a system, our administrative system is designed as such that, because we have to talk about the process as well as the best as well. So, I mean, that was my first experience, and then thereafter all the government officials, especially that time the Prime Minister at that time, immediately got, and he convened all the stakeholders, the Army, Navy, Police, and all the health, the Met Department officials, everybody into one location, and even the media, because he knew that the media will have to do a pivotal role there, because we had to take the message across to the people, because we do not know as to when the next wave will come and strike. So, he got all the media heads and everybody, stakeholders, everybody together, and he formed a temporary committee, I could remember. And then with everybody, we would be able to disseminate, because the information department, and we were given all the information, whatever the deck. So we from there onwards we started actually disseminating the information. We updated the people, because 35,000 people died. Over 35,000 people died. About 2.5 million people were displaced. So it was the first ever catastrophe that we have seen in our lives. Maybe perhaps in the entire world wouldn't have seen such a catastrophe. So that was also an example, but we learned from that. Yes. Right? We learned from that, and then as to how then hereafter we had to prepare for that. And as Mr. Kodipili said, after I think 2005 the DMC came into action. I think it's a huge asset for us, because the DMC then became the real dissemination center for information, because had not for DMC, we would have, the media would have been in a bit of an isolation, because where to go for what, right? Because you see, what I see, Dushi, as a senior journalist, we had to get one single authorized person with, we had to get one single voice with all, whatever the network, whatever the platform it could be print, electronic or social media, but if it comes from Pradeep Kodipili of DMC, it has to be one source, one institution. That has to be the case, because otherwise the public trust will diminish. Exactly. Because if everybody starts giving communicates, and it won't happen. So we, in fact, we wanted at least one institute has to take the responsibility of disseminating the information to the passers, to the media. So in that way, I think Pradeep Kodipili became a household name at a time of disaster, because actually he has a passion. Not that he does it as his job or profession. And in fact, my friend Ravi, because I could remember when we first went and met them, they immediately, we told them about our plight, that we need you all to be the institution. And in fact, they came up with a graphic idea, because at that time, Dushi, most of the communication lines got disconnected from Colombo, and sometimes we couldn't even find most of the, even the reporters who went, even when I went from home, when my battery died, actually I was somewhere in Aludgama, and the entire stations couldn't find us, because there was no connectivity. Right? So in fact, we told them that the main theme will be the connectivity in the future. So what immediately they came up with some package, and they actually gave all the main media stations the Motorola phones, Motorola in the sense that walkie-talkies at that time, and then they established a network, and every Friday I could remember they have a rehearsal to check whether it works, right? So I think Ravi and Pradeep, I think they took the initiative and getting the, because it's a huge investment at that time, and also they wanted thereafter to get the satellite phones. If all the networks goes blank, then what would be the next? And then the alternative was the satellite. So they in fact wanted to get the satellite phones also for the media stations to keep the connectivity. So that was it. In a more concise form, I think mainly we have learnt it from the action, not that we have earlier knew it. Had we knew, as Mr. Pradeep Kodipili said, all the 35,000 lives could have been saved, but anyway, this is a natural disaster, so we had to face. But I don't think in the foreseeable future, if something comes up, we are now equipped to face, because now the media is well aware of of what is happening. So I think it's a learning curve for everybody. So we also learn from that. I think everybody learned.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Baranagi. Actually, you gave a very lengthy overview in terms of what happened, taking all of us back to 2005 and the challenges and the difficulties you all faced as journalists, and also how scarce the information was at that time. And in fact, as all of you quite correctly mentioned, the word tsunami was totally a new word for majority of the people in the world. And in fact, over here also some of them are finding it difficult as to how it needs to be pronounced when it came to the English pronunciation.
Yes.
So tsunami is known to be one of the most powerful and also least predictable natural disasters. So going back to Mr. Ravi Jayaratna, as Mr. Shehan explained the structure in terms of communicating the early warnings. Now we have in our country actually 2 levels in terms of the framework, that's the national as well as the subnational. So DMC over a period of time has developed this framework and strengthened it with standard operating procedures as well. So Mr. Jayaratna, could you explain as to how this communication happens from national to ground level and the importance of the message being driven into the community in a very timely manner to achieve that last mile, last man or woman effectiveness, especially in terms of a tsunami threat?
Yes, Dushi, thank you very much. Then it is actually a very good question and very important questions to give you answer, because this is the most important thing that the people should know, how we are getting that information from the disaster management center. As Salim said, that in our policy we have a disaster management policy. In there the number 16 clearly mentioned about one designated organization has to send this dissemination of early warning message, concise, precise and a very simple, understandable early warning message to the community.
Okay.
Why? It is confusing all the communities, because the people who are trying to lead, we are the first people that we are giving the information to the community, then the community will confuse and panic. They act based on their several, the informations. But avoiding that information, the DMC is taking the lead role to send that all the messages to the community, entire our stakeholders and all in the country. So if I come to this, how we are disseminate this message, as Mr. Pradeep said, the IoT WMS, Indonesian Tsunami Warning and Mitigation Center, they are sending message to our technical agencies. Technical agencies mean they know how to explain the technical disaster. We are really in disaster management center working as an interface body. We are not going to much more interpret those kind of warning messages, but impact based that yes, we are doing that. However, the technical agencies, they are sending their message to disaster management center. Then disaster management center, based on the vulnerability and other risk, we have passed the message to the final community or the last mile dissemination. So as Mr. Pradeep said, there are a lot of modes to disseminate even VHF, HF, SMS, social media is the most common. But we have to think about how we are sending in the night time.
Exactly.
The very important thing. So we open our 117 call center to get the feedback. Even disaster management center, we are passing the message to the community. Community can, even if you need more information, they can call to 117, the pre-line, free 3 digits number, and they can get the other information. We have a call center, call agent there. They will explain what to do, what to bring, where to go.
Okay.
So those are the things that once we consider those early warning system that in place in our country, and in theoretically we are divided into this early warning system into 3 phases. It's upstream, upstream like in the international, maybe regional, maybe technical agency, those upstream. Then interface working as our disaster management center. Then after that the GN divisional districts levels on downward. This is the downstream. So from, if you get the those early warning to the interface in disaster management center,
Okay.
we immediately, without delay,
Okay.
we are passing to the vulnerable community and the stakeholders who are working with us immediately. And as our National Emergency Operation Plan, NEOP,
Okay.
I have to remind this NEOP, National Emergency Operation Plan, in the chapter 3, is very clearly mentioned about how we are doing the early warning to the country.
Okay.
The most of the now in our Act, Disaster Management Act, it is very clearly mentioned about to establish or develop this kind of National Emergency Operation Plan. We develop taking the responsibility of the Disaster Management Center. We already developed the National Emergency Operation Plan with the support of other stakeholders.
Okay.
Especially, we have categorized into four categories in using these stakeholders. First is the technical agencies,
Okay.
then the first response agencies, essential service agencies, and service agencies. These are the four categories of the agencies. Then if you go with the tsunami, now as I earlier mentioned, it can be happen in the Indonesian subductions, maybe Makaram subductions. Even if it happen in the Indonesian subduction, it will depend the time the reach to the tsunami in the coastal belt in our country. So that will depend in the epicenter,
Okay.
depth of the seismic activity,
Okay.
and depend on that, and the speed. So that will depend on the hit time.
Okay.
So overall, if I take last tsunami as example, it's 6:50 in the morning. It's the earthquake has happened. Then hit 8:13 Saindumadu Ampara.
Okay.
So only 1.5 hours. But really, we have to think. Really, we did our exercise, simulation exercise. So we identify if it is happened in the Indonesian subduction, it will take regional centers. They are analyzing more than 10 minutes. Then it's come to the National Tsunami Warning Center Med Department. It will take again another 5-10 minutes. Then it is come to the Disaster Management Center, also taking another 10 minutes.
Okay.
So if you send that message to the community, so we have saved only 50 minutes. Within that 50 minutes, we have to bring the people even in the night time.
Okay.
So it is a very difficult task.
Okay.
So we really now we have experience with our simulation exercises. We had in a lot of areas in vulnerable district and divisional levels in coastal belt. In our coastal belt, 130 or 1,300 kilometers long,
Okay.
and we have to bring the population, our communities, into the safer ground. And so we have only 30. If the coastal community come to safer place, it will take 30 minutes. We have all together 50 minutes. Within 30 minutes, we have to bring them. So this is a very difficult task, but I think this is really all our responsibilities, not in the disaster management center also.
Okay.
The people also should know what is the tsunami, what is the disaster, what are the new disaster coming in the world. As Salim said, the COVID,
Yes.
actually we know the COVID. So likewise, that is why in disaster management center we have awareness division. Our Mr. Pradeep is the director. Now we inculcate the community how you act based on this our information, and especially now at that time we never know about the tsunami. Su mean harbor, Nami mean wave. It is harbor wave. right? That is the tsunami. So likewise, we can say, lot of wordings will become
Correct,
in future. So then when I come to the early warning system, how work, we are getting that informations from disaster management center. Then by using our modes, we are passing our district secretary district level. In the district level, we have in the 25 districts, that districts our sub office there, headed by our district deputy director or assistant director with our subordinate staff there. They are passing their message to the divisional level. Then we have a connection between the divisional level and the GN level, the final administrative level. And we have made the community groups for working for early warning committees. So there are also, we distribute our purchasing equipment and distribute among them with the PA system, public addressing system, megaphones, a lot of equipment that we have given them to where the community, because the disaster management center, really we have a responsibility to save the life, properties and the environment.
Okay, right, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Jayaratne. You in fact clearly explained how the messages are being channeled from regional to national to the local, or in other words, let's kind of describe as in a more technical manner, upstream, interface and downstream. So it is very important that the proper messages are effectively channeled across those three phases, and also how important the role of all these key stakeholders to ensure that effective communication takes place during a disaster such as tsunami. So let me now move to Dr. Basnaika once again, who is joining via Zoom from Thailand ADPC office. Dr. Basnaika, I would like to ask from you this time, after the views shared by Mr. Jayaratne, from your perspective, actually looking at the regional aspect or the regional overview, how can the technical agencies and the media work together to make complex technical data understandable and useful for the public? Because nowadays the technology has advanced compared to 2004, and there are new innovations that have been introduced to disseminate this technical data to the community. Could you kindly share your thoughts from a regional perspective, Dr. Basnaika?
Thank you, Dushi. Yeah, I think that's one of the important aspects that we have been discussing all over the years, even before the tsunami also. So the local level sort of communication from maybe in a country like Sri Lanka or in other countries. So the national to subnational level communication or the dissemination part quite okay. But from the district, in particular Sri Lanka, so to community level, so there are some gaps. I'm not saying that it's not working well, but there are some gaps. So one of the projects that ADPC also involved in implementing in Sri Lanka, funded by the SCAP, Tsunami Trust Fund, several years back. Our disaster management colleagues who are here were also involved in that. So we are trying to address that gap, meaning that so how the communication is strengthened from the district level, district disaster management office to the community who are really at risk. It was a coastal for coastal hazards, and then we implemented or piloted this program in the eastern coast, particular area, Trincomalee area. So we use some sort of like sort of equipments, meaning that the mobile networks or other things may not work during a disaster time. So we introduced like, VHF type thing. So to answer to your question very directly, so I think this is the story between like, bridging science and the people, the practice. So it so happened in the past as well. I don't think it is happening now. So the source agencies, they are issuing early warnings that messages may or may not be able to understand well by the recipient. That is nothing wrong with that, of course. So there should be some sort of like, intermediate action, sort of like, maybe the disaster management center, as they are responsible for sort of the third pillar, which was highlighted a while ago. That's the dissemination and communication, how that information is transformed and translated into a people who can understand at the ground. So that's the difficult part. It has been there for long. So till today it is happening, I would say. So we need to work together. So kind of like, in order to address this, the communication gap. So that can only be done with the agencies, of course. Now Department of Meteorology in Sri Lanka as the National Tsunami Warning Center, as well as the disaster management, who are responsible for disseminating and communicating that information to grassroots level. So they should sort of first come up with sort of kind of mechanism to simplify the messages, as well as even if the messages are correct, are disseminated, but if then they cannot understand, and if the people cannot take decision on time, so that's also doesn't really make much sense. So it's a kind of like trust building with the power with the people. So these two organizations or other organizations, like, maybe the subnational organization or even local governments, should work together with the communities to gain their trust. And then, of course, through that, we can probably improve the system. So this is where, like, tsunami drills and simulations are happening or need to happen. I understand the fact that every year IO wave is happening. That's national level or regional level, I would say. And in addition to that, we understand that disaster management center, DMC, they are also having sort of like, kind of like, drills and simulation in other areas as well. So this is the way that we should be working together, all the organizations, as well as now the next thing is very important thing is the journal. So how the journalist the media can play, because it's not something like just Rupa, the TV, television, but there should be other channels we should be using. So there are several, because, maybe the SMS, for example, or the people-centric, people alerted warnings. So now I think the dialogue in Sri Lanka, they have been working with the DMC to issue that particular warning to a very specific area, meaning that through the towers, they can target towers. So in that way, so we can probably improve the communication. So the social media nowadays are quite popular. So maybe almost everybody is having smartphones. So there are kind of like, new innovative ways and means, like, are there to improve this, bridge the gap, I would say. And the other one is like, in many countries, we have also done some trainings for the journalists. So it's also important for journalists, like, if you see, we have a senior journalist with us here today, and they are looking for, of course, the news, as well as this kind of like, for the national interest. So we need to emphasize or improve the understanding about this situation, about tsunami. Of course, everybody knows, by the way, and they can also play an important role to bring that message for a sort of like, a language for people who can really understand, after like, issuing the warnings or dissemination warnings to some sort of like, district level. They can also play an important role to bring that to the grassroots level. So these are some of the thoughts that I feel to respond to your question. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Basnaikar. Thank you very much once again for joining online from Thailand, and also sharing your perspective, which reflects the importance of shared knowledge, which could lead to saving lives. So since time has become a constraint right now, I would like to quickly get a common view. Probably either Mr. Kodipili or Mr. Baranage may answer this question in very quick way. In terms of the media institutions kind of taking the effort to prepare their news teams or to educate their news teams for ethical and accurate disaster reporting. What actions should be taken by media institutions in general? We would like to hear a very brief answer. As I explained earlier, we are faced with the timing barriers.
Yeah, since we are pressed for time. Well, actually, Dushi, unlike in the international media arena, well, I would say Sri Lankan journalists are all-rounders. Now, in other countries, some may have climate journalists, some may have political journalists, culture journalists, and so on and so forth. But Sri Lanka, we all will have to do all the subjects. So that's one thing, is a blessing in disguise, right? So that means we are more overall. But as the doctor mentioned very clearly, the recipient is the common man, all of us, that we need to get the information from a source where that person who basically manages the source also should understand the topic, right? Okay, that is why Mr. Ravi said that the DMC's one of the primary goals is to disseminate the information in very simple language, right? Now, in terms of SMS, because I am one of the people who pioneered these SMS services in news service, so I could proudly say that actually one of the reasons that we wanted to start this kind of SMS service was basically mainly the catastrophic events that happened subsequent to tsunami and mainly of the war, because that's also a disaster, a man-made, though it's a war. However, now when we had a challenge, for example, those days when we send an SMS, if the SMS is over 160 characters, it may not go. The platform will reject it, right? So, but sometimes the people will have to know the real information. Sometimes it needs at least over 160 characters, right? So, with the with the information, so even the platform providers, the mobile providers, had to increase their bandwidth and the technology, enhance the technology to disseminate this information to the public, because the public should understand properly. But also, I know the DMC is also time to time educating the journalists. But see, what I think as a journalist, what we need is some institute, right? I know that DMC alone cannot do, with all the stakeholders coming in, and have a constant, a sustainable project that will educate journalists, right? Who are passionate on disaster management, because when you say passionate on disaster management, sometimes they will jump at it, right? Because you need to give a little carrot for them to be pushed to be a disaster. When there was war, all the people wanted to report war, right? But not that everybody could do it, but nevertheless they were passionate on it, right? So even the disasters, right now, what happens is that we need some institute that will have a constant dialogue with the media institutions to educate at least batches by batches, right? To know about the disasters, the forecast of the disasters, and also know about the future, what will happen, right? Now what has happened is, with all the other workload, like only we talk about disaster when it happens. Now we are talking about the rain and the floods because of it has happened. But actually, rightfully, we need to discuss about disasters before it happens. Before catastrophe happens, we need to know the consequences, what will happen, when will it happen, because all the basic principles of media, the ethics of media has to be put in place. So I think if you provide special information, the knowledging, it is also responsibility of the media institutions, especially the heads of the news divisions who are basically manning the places, to send their colleagues or the reporters for that kind of training sessions, because immediately the best net impact is whenever you are faced with a catastrophe, then you will feel the investment is very important. Right? So, it's the education is number one, especially educating the journalists, especially even the heads. Sometimes, as the professor said, if the head is not aware of the catastrophe. If he or she thinks this is only a minute incident or minute affair, the disaster, why should we think about the disaster or whatever? Then the problem comes when real disaster happens, right? So it is a coordinated, it has to have a concerted, coordinated effort by the media institutions and also the other stakeholders. So, and also I always think, I always urge the public, whenever a disaster, if you hear a disaster, please channel into the mainstream media, national, either could be electronic or print or whatever, because we know that the national media, mainstream media will not let public in a darkness, right. So, they will basically, because we always know that the DMC will do that job, disseminating the final output to the media. So, I think just to give a very short answer, yes, number one is education, awareness, especially again for the journalists, because when they are educated, then when they are aware more, then it's easy for them to disseminate the message to the common masses. Because if we are not aware properly, if we are not technically savvy about the subject, how are we going to educate the common man on the road?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Baranege. I think you highlighted few key aspects in terms of educating the journalist and also enhancing the level of awareness for proper, effective and most importantly accurate dissemination of news. So, today's program covered a broader perspective of tsunami, and we looked back at what happened in 2004 and how far we had come up to in terms of the developments and also the enhancements that have taken place with regard to technology and the framework, strengthening the framework. So, on behalf of Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, I would like to thank our eminent panelist, that is Mr. Ravi Jayaratna, Mr. Pradeep Kodipili, Dr. Senaka Basnaika and also Mr. Shehan Baranage for joining with us today and sharing your valuable expertise and contributing to this important topic. So, the 2004 tsunami was one of the darkest chapters in our nation's history, but it was also an awakening for Sri Lanka, which highlighted the urgent need for preparedness, coordination and clear communication during disasters. So, until we meet again with another episode of Media for the Safer Sri Lanka, let us remember during disasters that every early warning matters until it reaches the last mile and the last man. So, together let us strive to ensure that our vulnerable communities are safe, resilient and that no one is left behind. Thank you and good night.